Hey guys, Barn Geek here. In this video we're going to be talking about how to build anything you want legally with rough cut lumber. Don't believe the lies. You do not have to go to the lumber yard and buy that expensive stamp graded lumber at the lumber yard to build your house, your barn, or whatever you want to build. And when I was first building my house back in 2001, when I built my first house, I was all excited because my uncle owned a sawmill. I owned my own tree care business where I removed some problem trees and different things. And I was really excited because what my plan was over time I was going to harvest some of these trees that I was taking down in people's yards that that were kind of in the way or needed to be removed. I was going to take those trees and I was going to take them over to my uncle's sawmill and have him saw them up, and I was going to build my house out of these trees. And somewhere along the way, somebody told me, I was still pretty young, and an older gentleman told me, you can't build your house with rough cut lumber. It's illegal. And I was like, no. Why would that be illegal? Why would it be illegal for me to build my own house with wood that I harvested myself? So I got looking into it, and back then you really didn't look things up on the internet too much, but I asked around. It was the old network of way of getting information, and pretty much the consensus was that the building code said you cannot build your house with rough cut lumber. So I was very, very bummed, and ended up building, borrowing the money, getting into debt, and building my house, and buying lumber, at the lumber yard. But so since then, I've discovered that rumor is absolutely not true. Absolutely not true. So this rumor has its roots actually in the International Building Code. The International Building Code says that in order to, and this isn't an exact quote, this is a summary. I'll link to the exact wording in the description. But essentially it says, in order to build your house, your lumber has to be graded and stamped by an accredited grading agency. And they have, once you do some more research, you'll find what those accredited grading agencies are. I'll link some of them I'll link some resources to that in the article that goes with this video on our website, barngeek.com. And so that's what the building code says, or it says or an equivalent, which would be an equivalent certification. So that would be a situation where you would get an inspector out to certify your lumber without stamping it. So they would give you a certification to certify that the lumber that they looked at is okay to use. So let's go over some ways that you can use lumber, no questions asked. This is the easiest, absolute easiest way to use anything you want, and that is this. If you're building a shed, or if you're building furniture, putting trim in your house, flooring, wall covering, anything that's not structural, you don't need to ask anybody anything. You just do it. There's no hoops to jump through. You just use it, I would recommend, of course, drying your lumber before you use it as a furniture, flooring, or trim, or anything like that. But you can absolutely build a chicken coop or a small shed. And in most places, small sheds, 10 by 12, it's coded right into the building code, the International Building Code, that you can build a 10 by 12 shed without a building permit. There is a caveat to that, though. The International Building Code isn't isn't law as it is. It has to be enacted or adopted by your local building authorities. So either whether it's your county or your state or your city, chances are they have adopted the International Building Code or some version of it. Often they will make variations, changes to the code. So if you wanted to build a shed or a fence or a playground structure for a single family home, something along those lines, chances are you do not need a building permit. Use your rough cut lumber, knock yourself out. Always check with your local building department. So now on to the next use, which is what we've all been we're all here for, is actually using it structurally. So besides all the structures I listed before, there are often exemptions in state building codes and local building codes for agricultural buildings. You're going to have to check in your local area, but a lot of places, including the state of Michigan, the whole state, is exempt from a building permit if the structure is for agricultural use and not for human habitation. So if it's a barn or a shed or chicken coop, that type of thing, that is for agricultural use, and that is in the Michigan State Code. So if you're in Michigan, I did research on Michigan because that's where I am, but check your local codes. A lot of places, especially rural states across the country, have that provision built into their state code. So next we're going to talk about native lumber exemptions. Well, depending on the wording in your state, it could be native lumber use, or it could say local stamp. In these situations, states like Wisconsin, Tennessee, New Hampshire, Rhode Island, and New York, all of those states either have a native species exemption or some sort of local stamp program where a sawmill owner could take a 2 or 3 day class, get certified to stamp and grade his own lumber and certify that lumber. Doesn't even have to necessarily stamp it, just certify that lumber, and the state says that is equivalent under the IBC to that accredited stamp grade that you would get at the lumber yard. Many states have those exemptions. I've only listed a few. You're going to have to look at your state. There was a couple other states I did find out. Maine, and Maine is also another state that has something similar, and so does Washington State. I think Washington State's exemption asks you to use lumber that's a little bit bigger in size. So right there at that point, my camera died. I babbled on for another 20 minutes and I didn't get any of that footage. So here we are again. It's another day, picking up where we left off. So if your state doesn't have one of these native lumber programs or exemptions built into the code, then your next option is just working with your building inspector, because they have the final say on what you can use in your house. I'm going to link in the article that goes with this video. There'll be a link that goes over, that'll take you to the International Building Code and the section that talks about how the building inspector has the authorization under the code to make adjustments depending on different needs for different projects. So in that clause right there is what building inspectors across the country have used to allow folks to use rough cut lumber to build houses, barns, a multitude of things out of local rough cut lumber. lumber that you harvested it on the farm, lumber that you got from a local sawmill. So our website is centered around that. We've got plans available for barns that a lot of people have turned into homes. Over the last 13 years that we've been in business, we've had maybe one or two people say that they had to get their lumber inspected and certified by a accredited agency. The vast majority of our customers have been able to build a barn, build a barn home, or whatever they wanted to by just, being up front with the building inspector and saying, hey, this is the plans. This is what we're trying to build. Here's the size of the timbers. If there's any question about the quality, please come out and take a look at the timbers. But work with your building inspector. These guys aren't out there to, cause you grief. They want you to have a quality structure, and because that's what their job is. So if all else fails and you are faced with a situation where you have no choice, you have to get your lumber graded and inspected by a accredited grading agency, there is still a way to use rough cut lumber, and many people have. So what you do is you get a hold of one of these agencies. I'll link a couple of them in the article that goes with this video. I called the NELMA, which is the accredited agency in my area, and they said it'd be about $300 plus travel expenses and hotel stays and that type of thing. They said typically there's not going to be a hotel stay because they'll try to schedule it where they're, going to be driving near your property anyway. So, and while you're over on the NELMA website, you can check out, they have a lumber grader course online that you can take and basically learn how to grade lumber. It's really not very difficult. It doesn't take very long. And it would be worth the effort, especially if you're going to saw your own material or if you're getting it from a local sawmill, to be able to look at a piece of lumber and say, you know what, this is going to work perfectly for this particular use. Or, hey, this board is not up to par and we'll have to use that for something else. Maybe it'll end up being firewood, but that way you can make a determination about what the quality of the material is that you're either producing yourself or getting from a local sawmill. It certainly doesn't hurt to have that knowledge. Now, speaking of the NELMA and these other accredited agencies that are allowed to stamp your lumber or stamp lumber, most of them are, or probably all of them that I investigated, are kind of the exclusive clubs. So you got to be a member of this association. A member mill is what they call them. And these member mills, they pay anywhere from $300-500 to, in membership dues, to the association every month, and on top of that, a certain amount per board foot, and that is just to keep that permission to have a stamp that they can stamp on that lumber and send to the lumber yard. To me, that is a barrier of entry that's not necessary for, and really prevents small sawmills from, entering into this industry as competition for these big mills. And as a result, what we've seen is small sawmills, they will focus on producing lumber that, that people don't need a permit to use, that people can use to build chicken coops, build furniture, make flooring, et cetera, build pallets, and on and on. And it's really a shame because some of the highest quality lumber ends up in a pallet, and then you've got a bunch of garbage that, you know, people are supposed to build their house with. It just boggles the mind how this could happen. We need to change this. There will be another video coming on what we can do as a community to take some of that back. We need to band together and support our local businesses. If we had a vigorous economy with local sawmills competing with these big mills, we wouldn't see 400% increases in lumber prices. That wouldn't happen. Because as soon as that price went up, small sawmill XYZ down the road would say, hey, I got all the lumber you need for that price or less. Competition, that's what brings prices down. You know, all these people talk about demand. Demand's going up. Yeah, demand's going up. But in a free market, you've got supply and demand, and you've got competition for that demand. And that's what keeps prices in check. I think a lot of people are forgetting that part. It's not, oh, you know, a large portion of the attitude is, well, it's just the way it is. We're just going to have to deal with it because, you know, the prices went up. You know, these big companies are making insane profits, and we just have to, you know, suck it up, buy our $15 2x4s, and build our house that that now could be plated in gold. But or just not build at all, which is just ridiculous. There are sawmill owners out there, there's sawmill companies, small sawmills, small loggers that want to work. And for big companies to suppress the market so and really impact the entire economy of this country, this needs to not ever happen again. So to that end, that's why I'm making this video. I'm sorry about the rant, but that's why I'm making this video. That's why I'm making a whole series of these videos. I'm shifting focus on the website. Now we're just going to focus on the hardware and the plans. So if you download plans from our website, you can take a list to a local sawmill and say, here, this is my lumber list, you know, give me a quote. You are going to be shocked when you get that quote back about how cheap it is. You're going to look at that quote and you say, okay, I can build this size barn I can get this material for this size barn for this much. And then you go over onto the big box store website and look at their pole barn packages prices, and you are going to be stunned. So that's all I'm going to say about that. You know, all that information is going to be on the article that I've written to go with this video. It's in the link in the description. Go check it out. I wish you the best of luck in your project. You know, build your barn, build your dream house. Don't let the high lumber prices stop you from doing what you want to do with your property. And we'll catch you on the next video. Thanks for watching. Have a great day.